Hey, this is John Lee Dumas, the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire. And if you're wanting to learn how to embrace change and navigate through disruption as a leader, then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend, Denis Gianoutsos. He's prepared to ignite.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos.
Let's change gears a little bit here and let's ask you a question around who's your favorite leader? Now, this person can be alive or from history. You may have several, but who's your favorite leader and why?
This is a very interesting answer to your question because I didn't know we were going to go so deep into the musical metaphor, but I think the universe has arranged for this all to culminate with the answer. Diane Pope, who was an incredible orchestra conductor for me in high school. Junior high and high school. Now, the reason why she was such a great conductor, and she's still living, is she really inspired a bunch of hormonal kids, right? To not only play in tune, but play with passion and be dedicated and be disciplined. And she saw in me something that was special. Now, I think she may have also seen that I was struggling at home. And what she did was she arranged for me to study with a college professor at Drake University in 8th grade. That was terrifying, but so good for me. And I said yes. I don't know how I had the goal to do that, but I guess under her guidance, I felt safe. But that was just extremely terrifying. But to watch her manage us humans, pull out the most music possible, and then show up at the podium during concerts in a ball gown with her hair done just gorgeous. She was beautiful. And I didn't know at the time that being a female conductor was a rare situation, especially back then. I think it still is, but she was brilliant. And I think I had learned leadership skills as well as grace, as well as how what you wear actually can make a difference.
Yeah, beautiful. And I love the fact about the grace and about the fact that what you wear can make you beautiful and out there. But also it sounds, and I don't know, you tell me, but it sounded like to me, because I'm summarizing pretty quickly here, it was that even though she was a woman conductor, she was just out there and did her best with the team and did it with grace, which is a great way to do it. That's excellent. What a wonderful example and role model for people to follow. And we have the college that I went to. When I say college in this country, when we say college, it's high school, an equivalent to the US. We call college university. And so when I went to college here, we had a sort of a Latin sort of saying, which was limina abset et imperiati, which meant was take the light and pass it on. So it's almost like Diane Pope has given you the light and was taking the light and then now pass it on to you.
I love that. Yes. And I actually really do highlight and write about her in my memoir that's coming out in March. And not everyone in my life got to make it into the book. It would have been a 3,000 plus page memoir, but she really was that beacon of light. And I'm happy to pass on the light after her.
That's wonderful. Well done. Alrighty. So the show here is called Leadership is Changing. When I say that title or that statement, what does it mean to you?
It's more of a personal thought rather than an organizational or a global thought of leadership. And for me, what I learned over the pandemic, which we're still in, by the way, is not that I have to remind you, but is that I now understand more specifically the people in your organization are the absolute most precious gem to protect and develop. I know in the world of entrepreneurship, that said a lot, but I'm not sure if it's really focused on in big business and larger businesses. And I can see how it would be a challenge because there's so many layers of management and there's a whole group of people that upper management have no idea who that is. I'm wondering if what I actually realized as an experience that the people that work for my company are the most important thing, if that will ripple through all businesses of all sizes in the future.
Well said. I think you're totally right. And if think about the events and entertainment business that you're in and been in and so forth, what you actually do in events and entertainment is that you create an experience for people. That's what's happening. And then, so you've used the words just now about an experience for those employees or for the members of the team and so forth. And I think you're so right. The bigger the organization gets, they start to forget about that experience, about people and about the individuals. And then I see a lot of organizations talking about their customers and stakeholders and sales, and they always leave people to the last piece. And I think that should be one of the first pieces, right? Because they are the most important thing. If you don't have the right people on board, it ain't going to work. If you don't actually have people on board, it doesn't going to work.
Yeah. I didn't understand that viscerally well enough, in my opinion, before the pandemic. And I'll tell you what has happened when I finally came to that realization is that I think, of course, my team is happier than ever, but I'm happier than ever. And sometimes you have to look at yourself. Sometimes you have to do things for yourself. And it's funny to think that I didn't completely get that pre-pandemic, but we all are on this journey and we have different milestones and different pacing to get to them. And I guess I'm just a slightly late bloomer.
The thing here is that, as you said, we all learn, but we all learn at different stages. And I think it's just great to hear leaders saying that they've learned from something and now I can move on and do things and so forth, which is good, right? Because as leaders, sometimes there are some leaders. Natasha, I've done an episode really recently, which was in relation to take both masks off. I think we've got the COVID mask that we're wearing, but leaders are hiding behind another mask, and that is their title or their ego or other stuff as well, and not really bringing the true person to the picture.
I think bigger success happens when you're able to let go of that mask and that ego and realize that it actually is doing you a service rather than a disservice. So again, that comes with time and wisdom.
Who's your favorite leader and why?
I guess I would say Mandela, because he did the impossible. I can't imagine what his self-talk might have been, but I know he had wonderful parents who helped create a foundation of faith and trust and belief that I'm going to do the right thing and the world will fall in place. He was a giant and proved out that peace and love win.
And he was a giant, and he still continues to be a giant, and he's not even alive. It's just wonderful to see what he's done. And yeah, just imagine all the negative loops, the thoughts, everything that was going through his mind when he was in prison. It's huge.
The constant to your person, and to be able to look at it from a far different perspective.
Yep.
Not take it and become friends with your jailer. I'm out of here.
Amazing. Here's a question I'm just going to throw at you. Just see what you think about this. But if you were sitting on a park bench with Nelson Mandela, what would be a question you might ask him?
How do you stay so thin?
There you go. There's the humor, but it's a great question. Yeah, how does he stay so thin? Yeah, it's very good. Oh, nice. Well done.
A better question?
No, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah. Tell me, the show here is called Leadership is Changing. When I say that title or that statement, what does that mean to you?
It just means to me that the whole notion about what is power, what is a positive influence, what gets us motivated and going is now coming from a far more sophisticated understanding, not just of what motivates us, but of what it means to be human. In a time like now, when we are, on one hand, on a daily basis, just dealing with miracles, the miracles of being able to learn anything in a split second. Come on, that's wonderful. And the travesty and tragedy that we are also witnessing every day. So given the state of the earth and the challenges of climate and politics and all of those things, there's no way that I can justify my life without saying things need to become more humanistic, more open-minded, and more genius. If you can do a surgery without making a cut in a person, if people can survive. I just had a friend who overcame pancreatic cancer.
Wow.
some of the great feats, whether in science and sports or any other field in the world, are really possible. If we go to other planets, if we're looking now at flying cars, surely we can connect. Surely we can find ways to appreciate other human beings despite our differences. And the reason it's really easy is because almost everybody, except for a few narcissists or the rare person who truly does have a mental disability, everyone has empathy. Everyone has the need to use it and receive it. We're halfway there, but we just haven't all been given the tools. So the idea that leadership is changing gives me faith that those who are guiding us have a new wisdom and a reboot to what success looks like. It's not just about me getting all the stuff. It's about finding a way for you to be rewarded for your work, for sure, to inspire other people to do it, but to have yet another purpose that goes beyond our individual needs, that makes that product or service valid. It's content under purpose.
Yep. And I think that not to dismiss those who have gone through it or those who people have passed away from it, but the COVID side of things, the pandemic, has really been, I think, a big wake-up call for a lot of people, in the sense that life is fragile and that what we do every day doesn't mean it's going to be permanent. And then we also need to change quickly. And we need to get on with things, because if we don't, in my actual introduction to the show, I talk about leaders, organizations the same. If they're not changing quick enough, they run the risk of becoming irrelevant and being left behind. And they don't want that. And so I think what you've been sharing there is really important for people to understand that we can connect with others, we can learn from others, we can grow from others, but they can also connect with us and learn from us and grow from us as well. And so if we can do that, it's good. And you've mentioned it a couple of times, maybe even 3 times already on the episode, and that is if we have the tools and if we've got the tools to do that. And I think that people need to find the tools to help them move through and move forward, which is really important.
I think one of the most important type of tool is a tool for self-soothing, as we often treat ourselves as though we're in our own army. Come on, get together, exercise, eat, don't. Second, there's a whole bunch of us inside this one being, and we're not all on board. Some of us don't even want to get out of bed, much less go work out. I think the capacity to attend to different parts of ourselves, the parts that don't feel like going along with the program right now, is really important in terms of staying whole. For instance, we teach an exercise which many traditions use, which is called hand to heart, which is if you take your dominant hand and put it on your heart just long enough to start feeling your heartbeat, that dominant hand is like the grown-up you. That's the you that handles everything that you've ever handled. You didn't know how you were going to handle it, but you figured it out. It's the most together leader within all of your parts. But from the inside, the vulnerable you feels that strength and can relax. So the defenses don't have to cry and scream and kick their feet. Whatever you can do to develop more and more tools like this that you can do any place at any time. We have lots of them. And I think that is what we need, because life in 2022 is a constant onslaught from all kinds of unwelcome voices telling us we're not good enough. And that is really one of the core drivers behind the narrative method, is to understand that this thing I call the cult of culture, the constant onslaught, media, social media, institutions, everything, as well as everyone you know, because we've all been victim of it. That is the biggest factor in our psychology, theology. It's not your family of origin or what happened. It's what all those things matter, of course. But this is something that started when you were in utero and continued when you were an infant and a young child, before you had any capacity to understand or defend yourself or say, look, I know that buying this soap isn't going to make me happier. But this stuff infiltrated us and continues to do so in overt and subliminal ways. So we need to know that these feelings of defectiveness that every single person you know has, because nobody's attractive enough or smart enough, good enough, successful. Everything. Go down the line of all we aspire to be. The pandemic has given us something so ironic, which is it is the one vulnerability that nobody has to be ashamed for having caused that we all share. When we come together and can say, I have also been made to feel not good enough by the cult of culture, and I feel like I'm not as smart as some people, I'm not as productive, or whatever those things are. And then you hear other people in a group say something that is essentially the same. Now, here's someone, I never met this person. You are speaking my vulnerability that proves that it can't just be my personal defect.
Yep.
Once you realize that we are all in that part together, 50% of your personal shame and insecurity vanish because it's not yours.
Now, tell me, this could be, you may have several, but who's your favorite leader and why? Now, this person can be alive or from history. So who is that person?
One person that really made a big mark on my mind is the CEO of Johns Hopkins Baby Medical Center. That's where I worked at that time. His name is Greg Schaefer. And he did not teach me to teach me, but I learned this by observing him. And how amazing, right? That you are teaching others without really teaching them. So I remember on one of our walks, as we were walking through the hospital, he saw a paper pin on the floor. And he bent down and picked it up and put it in the trash can. Now, this might seem like a very simple gesture, but it made me think because I come from India, and India bosses do not do those things. So I saw this humility in this person, and I actually asked him, why did you pick up that paper pin? And he said, one of the missions of our hospital is safety. And if I'm not living that mission, who will? So I have to be that example. That was one thing. And then the second thing that he taught me was, he said, I don't care if people like me or not, but respect is non-negotiable. And this is something very important that I teach my clients. It is not important to get people to like you. It is important, though, to get them to respect you. And as soon as they start respecting you, they are going to put you in a completely different league. And you will stop all the people-pleasing business that we do. We want to make our bosses happy, our colleagues happy. We have to move away from that and make respect as our gold standard. So it was just amazing to have those two things stand out. And it was great to see him lead.
Excellent. And what I was just about to say, and I'm glad you shared those two examples of what he did, because he's not a name that everyone knows around the world, like a Mandela and so forth. But see, that's somebody who's had impact on you, but also others, many others. And when you said, I don't know if you noticed what you said, but when you actually talked about the paperclip thing on the ground, and you talked about people in India, and you said, and people who are the boss in India wouldn't do that. That's the difference between a boss and a leader. Two different things. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's interesting. And then when you said about the respect is non-negotiable, love that. I think that's really good because there are so many people today who are trying to do things to get approval or to be liked. And it's wrong. It should be, you should do what you need to do because of a purpose and a reason. And yeah, what you just said, respect is non-negotiable, what he was saying. Very good.
Yeah, that has to stop, right? Looking for validation from others.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, totally. Now, the podcast here is called Leadership is Changing. That's the title. When I say that title statement, what does that mean to you?
When we say leadership is changing, these days, this is during COVID and after COVID. Before COVID and after COVID, it is completely changed. This time, this lockdown has given people a lot of time to reflect. They have introspected, they are trying to understand what their purpose is, why they are doing what they are doing, and they are realizing their worth. They are realizing that I can be so much more productive when I'm at home. And they are going to challenge. They are going to challenge organizations if they make it compulsory for everybody to come in the building to work. They are going to be challenged because people are realizing that they add so much more value. They can be in the home environment and they can be productive and they can be creative. And it seems like a perk, right? It used to be a perk in the past. This actually might become the norm. So when I think about leadership changing, I want organizations to keep this in mind, to have eyes on the prize, not on the how. You set goals for the employees and then you let them loose. Let them become creative, bring their best work in the environment where they are the most comfortable, and let them do the magic. And that's what I see, that we cannot have that conventional rules around this, that you have to be at work from 9 to 5, because they can do that work in their home in a short amount of time so that they can take on bigger, better, strategic responsibilities and give much more.
Yep. Organizations set the strategy, get out of the way, and let the employees get on with the magic and let them do what they need to do. I think is really important. And when you said about adding value and you said about working from home, of course, there's the work and then there's also the creative side. I think what's really quite important here is that we can add value to the home life by being home and add value to the work life, and also being creative is giving us that space to be creative. And I think that's wonderful to think about and really good. Let the magic happen.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.